Welcome to Splunk Talk!
I like the fade out there.
A Splunk podcast that's all Splunk and no junk. I am Birch here with
Hal.
And this is an episode where we're going to talk to Melissa Perez and Renita Dada about Tech Talks. But before we go any further, I want to point out that this is episode of season 2, episode 23.
So we're going to have to use scientific notation at some point.
X, I.
Be Roman numerals, but I'm not going to.
Okay. Science and Roman. That's the same thing. Hal, I saw you swivel away. Did you want us to see something about your background?
No. I mean, I've just there've been some interesting news lately, and I don't have any comment on it whatsoever.
Oh, is this an allusion to the monolith, or the monolith that hadn't not be there anymore?
I may or may not have had anything to do with the multiple monoliths appearing around the world.
You can't confirm nor deny.
I cannot.
Speaking of Hal and the movie, it wasn't until a couple of years ago that I knew that Hal was supposed to be symbolic of IBM in letters, at least.
Mm-hmm. Yep, one step better was the thing. And I worked at IBM for a couple of years.
Really?
And I tried so hard to get the email address hal@ibm.com, and they wouldn't do it. The closest I got, they wouldn't get rid of the I had hal@us.ibm.com.
Oh.
It was close, but I did actually have hal@hp.com when I worked there.
Yeah.
And
so
I have
that's why
hal@splunk.com right now.
Yeah, and that's why you left IBM, right? Because they wouldn't give you the email address?
Yeah,
okay.
we couldn't agree on that, so it was irreconcilable.
Irreconcilable differences. Very cool. Very cool. What do you, speaking of all Splunk and no junk, what do you think of the monolith?
I mean, I think it's I guess it's just kind of like a picture of the times. It's like somebody needed something to break them out of the the normal and the not so normal things this year. And
yeah, when I saw the headline, I was like, "Yep,
something else."
This is what happens when everyone is bored.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
like let's bring it back to Splunk. So this is episode 23. Mm-hmm. We've got a bunch of that we're just finishing up on from Conf.
Shed load of them.
A shed load.
Is it 9? I think there were 9 that we did.
There were 9, plus we have one more episode about Splunk for Good that precedes this one that has not yet been published.
Okay.
Then we'll have this one.
So when are people going to listen to this episode right now?
At the rate that we edit them, 6 years.
So by the time you listen to this one,
we have since retired from the company.
We can drop them in, one.
It's like a message in the bottle.
Yeah. So, do you know anything about message buses and queues? That kind of technology?
I can I a little bit, yeah.
Okay.
I
think about a lot in the sense of my day job working with DSP, the data stream processor product.
Yeah.
And it's just an interesting area where they've always been ancillary, important, like important to Splunk customers, Splunk admins, but they weren't like the first and foremost.
Pulsar, is that the message bus?
That's part of the architecture underlying DSP.
Yeah.
But I mean, you have like Kafka, you've got all the cloud providers, Kinesis and Azure Event Hubs and GCP PubSub, and then if you think back in time, you've got jQuery, no, not jQuery, MQ.
Oh yeah, IBM.
Different, IBM had one. There's a variety of different compatible queuing systems.
What makes is a message? I'll disclose my ignorance, but is a message bust a message? A message bust is a message bus that's gone bust.
Yes.
Is it essentially a queue, a glorified queue with like resiliency and
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
So I mean, it's instead of um, send it and forget it, right? There's some sort of guarantee, and sometimes they get the guarantees, have certain levels of guarantees, resilience. Maybe deliver once. You must deliver this one time and no more than one time. Um, have to be able to scale. So scalability, then the guarantees get more complex because what if you have kind of a split brain scenario and this cluster doesn't know what that node did, and so there's a lot of complexity to doing that at scale.
So could a message bus be a like permeable such that it could be a queue or it could be a stack. It could send once and drop things from the bus. It could have a cursor so it moves along, but something else can continue to read from the bus. Is that the idea that like we're going to make this whole construct sophisticated and therefore we're abstracting it out as its own thing instead of being a bolt on of some other technology?
I think the answer is yes. I mean, kind of getting to where you're. I mean, think about the types of data ingestion that Splunk customers are typically dealing with: syslog
Mm,
and files, log files. So when you have messages that it's okay if you miss one or two, like maybe some performance metrics coming off of a workstation, who cares,
a
whatever,
little more
you
ephemeral
don't have
and
to have
you know,
perfection there. But if you're talking about my credit card processing transactions run through this system and I do some downstream analytics based on that, and you can't drop any, or if it's a security use case and you got to make sure that the noise that might not be noise, it might actually be significant, you know that you're going to miss something if it's so. People as the landscape of the data they have changes, you have to think through the architecture. And if you're moving things to the cloud, then architecture is probably going to involve a message bus technology, because that's what the cloud providers have been standardizing on. It's not standardized past tense; it's work in progress. Because you'll see sometimes that, because these cloud providers are big companies with a bunch of different teams working on different aspects of them, and they might come out with a new feature or service that doesn't actually, hey, Microsoft did a thing and Azure such and such doesn't actually spit data out to event hubs. That kind of scenario, I've seen that happen a lot.
So what brings up your message bus inquiry other than trying to pivot us back to technology?
That was basically it. it's,
Okay.
it's just a fascinating bit of technology that I've been involved in different capacities at Splunk and before, really.
Without making any without like speaking about roadmap, like we're not talking about any actual like just theoretically.
Hmm.
Um do you like I can imagine again just theoretically, not talking about anything we know or don't know. But theoretically, I always think about
Listeners
like
know that you and I are the ones that make some of those rules, or involved in enforcing them for other people.
don't tell
Okay.
anyone. Um, so blah, 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 blah. I always think about like modular inputs and like scalability of that. And then when you mentioned message bus, like my mind immediately went to like, oh, that would be interesting. So like I wonder if be it DSP or some other like future,
Hmm.
if we would see this really helping people out. Like think about like Heck, where
Hmm.
you're publishing to an endpoint, and like I don't exactly
Well, heck,
remember what
heck is
happens
interesting
if
because
Heck
you
goes
you look at it
down.
and you think that, oh, that's a message bus. It's actually not a message bus. It's kind of like an unmanaged pipeline. It's like a nozzle
By the way,
which takes whatever it's coming into.
unmanaged pipeline is the name of our '80s hair band,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So heck is not smart in that sense. It's a web server, and it responds to requests that happen to be posts instead of a GET, which is usually what you think about with a web server. Um, there's no management to any of the data that is entering it.
Oh, so
With,
that
with
the Heck
indexer
endpoints
acknowledgement, but
is
heck isn't
essentially a very
enough. That's
trivial
only
thing.
like, yeah, that's like 30% of the problem.
Yeah.
The rest of it is thinking about back pressure. Like what if the receiver can't handle the load? Then you have to slow it
You can't
down.
handle the load.
So things like Kafka will handle all these different edge cases. So when you have your data, you used to have control over it in the sense that you know how to put a forwarder on a workstation or a server, or you knew how to put a forwarder on your syslog server. It gets more complex. You have to think of new architectures when you're moving things to the cloud, or when you're otherwise having to react to a business requirement of, hey, we are sending our data to Kafka instead of log files. You got to go there to get your machine data.
Yeah, I'm picturing a world where like what do we
And that's
call
very
it?
common, by the way.
Serverless architecture. So,
Mm-hmm.
when I first joined Splunk, we were still very focused on like how do we add the forwarder as just part of the image whenever we provision a new instance or server.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's more like we don't provision servers, we just have services, and it is not appropriate for a number of reasons to put a forwarder on there. So instead, let's have that service, that container, microservice, whatever, publish this material to a bus where it
Yep.
then is getting channeled through to Splunk.
Yep.
I see. So the bus becomes really a conduit towards like the modern architectures.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So it's a great topic for people to learn about if they're not familiar with it, because everything is kind of headed towards that.
Yeah.
Whether or not, it's not like your servers are going away necessarily, but some of them will.
Does it
And you
also
got to know how to get the data in from those.
with like cloud services, there's I think of it almost like a cell, like an animal cell.
Okay.
And you got your cell wall, then you got your hey connecting audio, you've got your like mitochondria and your ribosomes and like all
And
this stuff,
And your
all your like
Mandalorians.
your mandalorians, your midichlorians,
Midichlorians. Yep.
everything's like moving around in there. All
Mhm.
your think of that like all your EC2 instances or your serverless architecture, and they're all like trying to communicate out, and this becomes a funnel to come out of that
Mhm.
cell. Okay,
Yep.
awesome,
You got it, man.
perfect. Wrapped up right in time for our special guests. Hi, how are you guys doing? Melissa, you're currently on mute. Renita, you're looking healthy. I know we had a worry that you might be under the weather.
Yeah, too much Thai, and my stomach was like, I'm gonna let that pass. Like,
Oh, I've never had that excuse on air before. That's interesting. I mean, it's honest. I mean, I've had that happen. You should Indian, not Thai with me.
Yeah, actually, Thai has like different levels of spice, and if you go beyond your usual, things happen.
So the little purple pill. That's There's an advertisement there. Are they paying us?
GI issues aside, it is interesting though. Like before yesterday, we were just checking in a little behind the scenes stuff, just to make sure everyone was ready to go for today. And I saw Renita had the under the weather icon as her status, and it's interesting how these days when you see that, you think, "Oh, COVID."
Yeah.
Like your mind just jumps to the worst. And it's like, no, I ate Thai food, too spicy.
Yeah, I mean, I was on a call yesterday, and someone had mentioned that they were ill, and the other guy was like, "Oh yeah, I went through it. It's like a couple of weeks of hell." I was like, "Am I the only person on the call that has not had COVID?" I am the only person on this call. It's like, oh, okay.
Oh, geez.
But hey, before we get into it, I think we need to do a shirt check because we all have actually interesting and perhaps unique and less seen.
Okay. Shirt check.
Just my short type. What we got here? Join the
so let's all read our shirts for our audio only friends. Hal, you get to go first.
Oh, you're just my source type. This was one of the ones I got during conf recently.
Oh, very cool. Melissa.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
I realized I should have done our guests first.
Yeah, you should have, but you went to me, so I had to respond.
First. Yeah.
Yeah.
Join the in cloud.
Ooh.
Yes.
We're gonna do yours last, Renita, because I think it's gonna be the most interesting. Because I've worn this one before. Data/doing GI. Turning data into doing globally case insensitive. But
regex trick there.
Renita, what is yours, and how did you get that?
Oh, I was an intern at Splunk, and this is the shirt every intern gets.
And what does it read?
Even now, it reads, "A Splunk tone is some kind of bird," right?
I love it. I'd not actually seen the shirt before, so that's cool.
Yeah, I chose this. I kind of had a feeling that you wouldn't have seen this because this is like very restricted to interns. Yeah.
She's saying she's exclusive. She's got the fancy
like
swag.
She's very, very exclusive.
Yeah.
So let's meet our guest officially here. So Renita, why don't you start us off? Tell us a little bit about yourself and include the intern story, please.
Yeah, your origin story.
Yeah, my origin story. I like that. So I've been at Splunk a little over a year now, and that's after my internship. I was doing my master's in Texas, and during my internship, I worked on the Splunk IoT product, which has since been folded into the main platform. And before my
were you a developer or a product management? What were you doing for that project?
Yeah, so I did my master's in business administration, and before that, I was back in India in Morgan Stanley as a software developer, and I was a Splunk customer at that time. So my manager had discovered Splunk, and he kind of gave it to me and was like, "Go play with it, go teach yourself, and figure out what we can do with it." And I love that journey. Like I'm a self-taught Splunker. I got certified, and I built those like dashboards and reports, and I really found a lot of joy finding the needle in the haystack with Splunk.
So, and just to clarify, so you've got an engineering background, but when you were an intern and you were working on IoT, were you? What was your role?
Marketing.
Oh, in marketing.
Okay, wow. So you MBA, developer, marketing. So you've done a few different things.
A few different things, yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like I was saying back at Morgan Stanley, once I had like productionized our Splunk dashboards and stuff, other teams like started coming to me asking, "Oh, how did you do this? How can you use this?" And I love telling them that story, like, "Oh, you know what? Splunk can help you do this, and you don't have to like parse through your logs and do the grep over and over again." And I love doing that sort of, discovery journey for other folks. And that's where I thought, okay, I should switch to marketing maybe.
All right.
And lo and behold, I'm here at Splunk.
I like the phrase "do the grep" over and over again. It sounds like a song lyric to like a Hammer song, like "do the grep," like do the Bart band.
So where did you land now? It sounds like you're in marketing at Splunk now.
Yes, I'm in product marketing for Splunk platform.
Okay, awesome. So let's go over to Melissa and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello. Yeah, let's just start. I'm in marketing, and I focus on our current customers. So I've been at Splunk a little over 2 years. I have always been in marketing. I don't have the crazy background, probably like all of you, but I've always focused on demand generation, but customer success marketing, as well as additional things like customer experience. So here at Splunk, I am also in product marketing because I am a global role, and I am making sure that our customers have content that they need to make sure they're using the software. And so I get to work with very fun cross-divisional teams to make sure we're pulling in the right content at the right time. And then, reach to one-to-many, and then also make sure I have tailored tools for our customer success team to use as they're working with customers. And I have a tight partnership with our community team, and that's an amazing partnership because we want to put that content where our customers are. And
awesome. So I think do we have Jason on the show to talk about community at one point?
Yes.
But I'm trying to remember if that was before or after the new.
I'm going to say episode 3.
So I want to get into that, but before I do that, marketing is, and I don't know if people like know people who are not in marketing, they
Are
might
you
not know
about to
this.
tell us what marketing is?
No, I'm gonna pull at this angle that I think is interesting, which is how much data is involved in marketing. So I was wondering, maybe you could kind of talk to the types of data that marketing uses to make decisions, and how does that feel at Splunk, and do you have any interesting stories around that?
That is a very acute angle that you pulled, Hal.
Yeah. Well, I am going to stick to customer marketing because that's where I live. But you're right, from a marketing perspective, we tap into our data. And again, we want to just tap into that data that we're going to make smart decisions about how we market to them. So what we do from a customer marketing perspective is obviously look at the products that the customers are using. We also can tell research on the back end from the web. And then we also talk to customer success managers and get that like anecdotal data as well. But we take that and we try to look at patterns and behaviors. So number one, send you information on what you already own so that you're using it and that you want to continue to use it, but also send you additional information on what might be the next best thing for you to try, or that next use case that you might want to discover with Splunk. And so
how do you make it relevant?
How do you make it relevant is also, we have, of course, our customer contact because they fill out forms, right? Because they want to watch webinars, or they want, or we have their information based on downloads. So we try to get very specific in the target. Like we wouldn't want to send content to an admin that's not relevant to an admin task, right? If you're an architect or an engineer or developer, it's very different information.
Right.
And so we try to get down to that persona in the title. But a lot of what I do is try not to assume what a customer might want to learn about next, and try to open up to all the personas. Because nowadays we're seeing IT, security, DevOps, all of that kind of blends together, especially in functionality and what Splunk can offer. And so in programs that I run, I also try to say, well, let me just promote everything at once, and then let customers choose what they're interested in watching. Because I can't, even with the data, I don't know what's in your head. I don't know, unless we're looking at future behaviors, I can only assume so much. So
well, and I think it's important to have some humility. And you mentioned that you go and do surveys and hear anecdotes from customers. Does that have you ever been surprised by what you learned in some of those anecdotal check-ins? Like the data suggested something and people are telling you something different?
I don't know if I've had that experience yet here at Splunk. Just because our customers are so passionate about any type of information coming.
Hey, that's a good problem to have.
On the flip side, though, I'll say that, in our Tech Talk series, we initially started asking poll questions just really quickly at the end of like, what other talks would you like to hear about? Or was this relevant to your role? Like how did this work?
Right.
I feel like we were getting the same answers about what they wanted to hear about next. It's those big use cases or the typical Splunk use cases. And then was it relevant to what you wanted to hear? Of course, most of the people were saying, of course, because why would they signed up if they weren't, if
so
they
these are people that
more.
are passionate and they want to learn more and they just want more. So they're not being very discerning, I guess, in that case.
And when you flip it over to demand gen, like when we're talking about prospects, of course, it's different, right? You're going to get across the board marks on, well, this wasn't relevant to me, or maybe you didn't go as deep as I wanted to, just because your message is a little bit higher. But of course, from customer marketing, we got to get deep. We got to show them how to do it and make sure that they're, wanting to continue.
Yeah.
So I think, at this point, a lot of our loyal listeners, and by that I mean both of them, would probably say, "Hey, wait a second! Are
we going to the ice bucket challenge?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys,
everyone prepared their
buckets ready?
Ice bucket, right?
Oh well.
It's water count.
Do it next day.
Yeah, mine's not so much a bucket as a cup, and not so much ice as it is just water, and it's not so much going in my head as in my mouth. Yeah. Challenge accepted. So I think a lot of people would hear, okay, this is a lot of insight into like marketing, but I thought we were going to talk about like tech talks. Melissa used some really interesting points that I want to highlight, because you were talking about, look, there's different sides to marketing. I think we've even had people on that are in like technical marketing.
Yeah.
And marketing, especially from like an engineer, at least people with my pedigree, kind of have grown up with like having a bad feel for marketing, that it's like, desperate for pushing sales or whatever. And what they don't see is these other angles. So like in technical marketing, where it's like, well, we're actually trying to show how the product can be used most effectively. Yes, it's marketing, but it's also certainly got layers of enablement and education to it. And then likewise with the tech talks, it's just what you're doing with the tech talks.
I think we need to back up and have them tell
Yes.
us
What
what
are
they're
they?
doing with the
Well,
tech
no,
talks first.
Yeah. This is my hook into what they are. Is like,
All right.
hey, here's
Give some more
marketing, but
room.
like, boy, this is like altruistic. It's like, we just want you to be successful. And that was what was so compelling about having the two of you on today. So with that, what is so altruistic? What are tech talks? Tell us about this program.
Okay. So Tech Talks is deep dives into technical content. And when you think about customer marketing or retention marketing, it's all about making sure our customers are onboarding, they're adopting and using what they've purchased, but it's also about tips and tricks, right, of things that maybe they didn't know about. So the idea of Tech Talks is around in the market everywhere. I think I get emails all the time of different Tech Talks from technology companies. But what it's trying to do is give you that short snippet, so you're not sitting through an hour-long webinar. The idea behind it was, how do we present content to our current customers, giving them the latest features and functionality of what they already have. In some cases, it might be brand new because we just launched it. In some cases, it might be a situation where they didn't realize they could do that with the software. And so what we try to do is say, here's a pain point, or here's a functionality. Let's tell you a short snippet about it, but then let's show it to you. So Tech Talks really is that short webinar, technical deep dive with a little bit of talking and a lot of demoing.
So this is, given that we're in the middle of a pandemic, these are events that, let me guess, are hosted in the lobby of a Holiday Inn, all in person, and they take 6 hours. What's the format? How do we do these?
Yeah, short format. They're 20 to 25 minutes long, and they're very similar in the format, meaning you give a 1 to 2 minute, I don't want to say problem statement, but it's almost like a 1 to 2 point, like, here's a pain, or here's a functional of something that's happening in the world, in your business. And here's the product that Splunk can use to solve it. Obviously, they already know the product because they have it. And so it just quickly says, okay, here's how we'll solve it in Splunk. And then it goes right into the demo of showing you how to solve it in Splunk.
Okay.
And then at the very, very end, we give you the additional resources to continue on your journey with the product. So that includes things like discussions in the community, documentation, .conf papers, training courses. All of those things are included to continue on the journey. And so it's really just giving you the tools you need.
And are these, so I'm guessing they're virtual, like they're all, yeah. And then,
so I keep seeing Renita's microphone, unmute, and she starts to say something. She doesn't say anything.
Oh, sorry.
Hop in, please, because we want to make sure that we hear from you as well.
Yeah, you got to attack it.
Sure, happy to. Yeah, I agree with how Melissa put out the process. That's exactly what we do. And the additional resources are actually also sent out to everyone who registers for the Tech Talks. So you have like a toolkit of stuff to go deeper and try it out yourself. And like she said, it may be a product, or it may be a feature within the product, or maybe just an app that you use with Splunk for some additional use cases or capabilities.
One of the things that I love about like Conf is that you get to hear from like other customers, or like the engineers, or the sales engineers, or the engineers that developed a product. For the Tech Talks, what caliber of talent are you bringing to this show?
So we typically work with our product managers as well as specialists in the sales organization who are like talking to the customers, whether like new prospects or existing customers on a day-to-day basis. And they can tell us like, okay, this is something that's like asked by our customers a lot, or this is something that will really help them in solving this particular problem. So that's where we say, okay, let's take this up and we can bunch it together with some other things and create a whole tech talk on it. And that's where the caliber comes in, where it's the product manager, it's the specialist who is, or like a technical marketing manager, like you referred to before, who are doing the in-product demos.
Oh,
So
so these are
I'm
people
on
that
our
really know it. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm on our webpage. Where do I find these tech talks?
Ooh, go to the community site. Yeah, so our website is really great for talking about the products and the features. When it gets into more of that technical customer, we partnered with the community team. And so if you go to community.splunk.com, there is a new area that was launched called discussions. And when you open up discussions, there are different of our buying center discussions, but then Splunk Tech Talks has its own section.
Oh, I see.
And we have over 51,000 eyeballs. I'm super proud of that since I run that section.
So a lot more than this podcast.
I know. But so what happens is everything goes on that Tech Talk discussion. It's like a blog forum. And so I post everything there with all of the links to the webinars, as well as all of the Q&A that happens in the live webinars, as well as all those follow-up materials. And again, the reason that I have it on this site is that the tagging and the labels align with everything that's going on in answers and the discussions. And so if you're in here and you're searching for Phantom or, MITRE ATT&CK, you type it in, you're going to see those discussions, but you're also going to see the tech talks. And so
that's cool.
So the goal was the partnership with community is we want customer engagement. This is where we're trying to push our customers to go. So why shouldn't the content live here?
Yeah.
All right. Here's a challenging question. What do you
were you going to say, like, let's go ahead and end the call so we can get on the phone with Jason so we can get the podcast on the site? Is that what you're going to say?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
What do you, always good. What do you, so do people have to, people tend to have an aversion to like registering for events. They don't want to get like the follow-up or any sort of hassle or anything. What's the situation here and make it worth their while? Because I do believe it's worth their while. These are really quite educational. These sessions.
Before we answer that, because that is important. Yeah. I want to give people a sense of what's on there, and I find root causes in minutes with Splunk APM, understanding phantoms, join logic. These are some pretty detailed things. Do you want to pick one, Melissa, and kind of unpack the type of the feel of that content?
Well, I'm going to let Renita do that because she is our expert in Splunk Cloud, and she has been on many of Tech Talks. So I would love for her to run through.
We have a celebrity in here.
She is our celebrity. Yes.
Our Splunk celebrity.
That's a new t-shirt. We need a new t-shirt for the Splunk.
Yeah.
Sure. So one of the Tech Talks I did was on the Cloud Monitoring Console, which is an app that comes with Splunk Cloud. And I worked with the product manager, Alan Due, on that one. And so you kind of, first it starts with, why do you need it? What does it help you do? What does it help you achieve? Which is obviously monitoring your cloud stacks, figuring out the health of them, if there are any recommendations. It can also like tell you if you have to upgrade, what are the pre-checks that you want to run through before you can do an upgrade. So things like that. And then Alan jumps into the actual demo of it. So it's like a 15-20 minute long demo of where do you find the app? Like start at the basic. You log into Splunk Cloud. Where do you go to find the Cloud Monitoring Console app? And then what's the first thing you see? The overview tab. and then what are the other tabs, and what's the sort of information you get on each of them, and then how do you read that information? What are the next actions that you can take to see some of those red or orange bars turn to green, for example? And that's an amazing thing to like explore for cloud customers, because that app will tell you what's your license usage, how can you optimize your cloud stack, so that you're getting the most out of your Splunk deployments. So yeah, that's a
Awesome.
breakdown
So
of the tech talk.
I want to highlight everything you said there sounds, again, like altruistic. Like it's an app that is in your deployment already if you're a cloud customer, and if you're not, you're on-prem. There's the monitoring console, the equivalent, but it's something you already have that you're probably not using. That everyone, when they start using it, goes, "Wow, this is awesome! I wish I knew to use this." And now you can learn about how to use it. Like, that's a win. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Melissa can also attest to, after every single tech talk, we reach out to our specialists or product managers to
For
see
money, right?
impact. Sorry?
You reach out to them for money, right?
For money? Oh
Yeah.
my God. Well, yeah, you can call it money. Like, what's the impact that we had through our tech talk, right? So from the cloud monitoring console tech talk, our product managers reached out to us and they were like, oh my God, we saw this huge spike in app usage right after this like happened. So that's a great testament to how these tech talks are being used by our customers to like adopt more and more of Splunk.
And that's pretty interesting, because you got Alan, like he's literally the PM for this. And that means that the questions that come up, or the topics, like that's the guy who's shaping this material.
Yes.
And I don't know, is there questions and answers at the end? Is it pre-recorded or is it live? What's the format there?
Oh, we're telling you all our secrets.
Yeah.
There is Q&A, but it's during the chat. It's not at the end. We don't go live with live talking at the end, but we answer questions throughout.
Oh,
so
kind of
yes,
like we
in
did
essence,
with Conf.
So in essence, they're taped, and so that nothing goes wrong with the demo. And then we answer questions throughout. And like I mentioned, like, if those questions come up, then I just put them in the discussion forum too for afterwards for others.
That's cool. And then now the PM is really getting that direct feedback from customers.
Yeah. So to answer your question about registration, or the marketing term of this, so there is registration. We use On24 to push our webinars, and we do require registration just so we know our numbers and things of that nature. But what I've done on the back end is make sure that these customers that are watching are not put in a lead scoring process. So if you think of demand gen marketing, where we're really trying to get that pipeline into our sales team, everything is scored, and the amount of activities you do will then push someone's score over to then be called by sales. These are not included. It's for adoption. We're watching just engagement. So just like Renita said, we're just seeing, do the app usage go up? Do we see that the customers, score from a customer success perspective is better? So in essence, we're not scoring. We do capture their information just so we can tie it back to customer data, but they're not going to be called by a salesperson. So based on watching.
And people are going to already have a Splunk.com login. Generally, the people that are coming, a lot of them will have downloaded Splunk and had to create an account that way. Those types of interactions with us, or joined a webinar, for example.
Yeah. So every time I go in to test my forms, everything's pre-populated. I just have to pick my time of what I want to attend. But yeah, we make that form part pretty easy.
Good deal. So what are some of the, do you have a sense of what some of the most popular articles are, or things that you're going to be doing differently, or heading different direction that you want to talk about?
Yeah, as we go into the next year, we launched these in April, so there's a lot of lessons learned so far. We started out promoting one at a time, and that's good when you start slow, but now we're up to 6 a month, and I actually broadcast them live in 2 time zones. So in essence, that's 12 a month. And so it gets a little hectic. So what we're
Are the
finding—
2 time zones, Pacific time and not Pacific time?
Yeah, we actually we actually broadcast for our EMEA audience at one time, and then we broadcast again for Ameritime. And for APAC, we leave it on demand. But that's part of a new strategy moving forward, is testing this out with an on-demand strategy for the English-speaking countries.
My cup of terminology has filled up, so now I need to pour it out. And okay, so demand gen is demand generation. Is Americas.
I'm
APAC
sorry.
is
Asia Pacific.
Asia Pacific.
Yeah.
And EMEA is Europe,
Middle East, and
Asia.
Europe and Asia.
Yeah. Sorry.
Were there other leads, funnel? Okay. Yeah, I think
we got.
I think we've caught everyone up. Okay.
All right. So anyway, the lesson learned was one at a time. Too many overlaps. Of course, we're promoting to admins and analysts because this type of content really resonates with the doers. And so there was too much overlap with the volume that we were producing. And so we do promote by month now. So all of the topics for December are promoted at once, and all the topics for January are promoted at once. But what happens is that makes for a very long email and a very long landing page of the information, just to catch and understand if you want to register. So we're going to be making some changes to our emails, especially to be better for all of our regions and languages. And hopefully that'll help moving forward. The other thing is, because of volume and because of feedback and things that we want to get out there for just customers using our product, we'll probably go to an on-demand posting as well. So we'll have live on certain days, and then we'll also promote when content will be on demand, because there's no way it's a lot more work to go live, but it's easy to post a lot more on demand. So we're going to work on another, format of a web presence, as well as formats for on demand being probably shorter than the 25 minutes. They'll probably be more 15. And then that way we can get more content out there for customers.
Do you see that being no question and answer then? Like no interactivity if it's on demand?
So the on demand, no. But the other idea is maybe once a quarter have just live Q&A, like, hey, here are the product marketers and the product managers, free for all, right? And do that live. So that's another idea too. But I'd love to hear ideas from customers as well. So I've put up even an article within the discussion saying, hey, what do you want to hear about? Are there topics that you want to know or want Splunk to present on? And even, build that editorial calendar and get more content out there. But I think we're going to try a live session and see how that goes. And then that could be a free for all. It could be fun. I don't know.
Do it live.
What Melissa is not mentioning here is the amount of legwork that she does into making all of these live sessions a possibility.
Go on.
It's an Herculean amount of effort, like just the logistics of getting the emails ready, prepping up for each of the tech talks, getting the slides ready, uploading them to the platform, the actual recording. It's an endless list. And
well, that's why you have 1,000 people working with you, right?
Yeah.
A large team.
Yeah.
20 people.
Team of one.
Team of one.
Team of one right now. we got to streamline. Need more people. Yeah.
Very cool. So what are some future topics? Are you allowed to speak about any future facing things?
Yeah. So we've already published all of the December ones. We just had some tech talks this week, and we'll have more on the 15th of December. But going into January, we're having Smart Store. So that'll be coming up. We are going to push one on demand just about pricing. I think a lot of our customers just want to have some more information about pricing models. We have more topics on.
Is that the one I'm doing?
Are you? Are you gonna?
I think I might be.
You think?
I might be. I don't know.
What are you pricing for us?
I don't know. About workload.
Let's see. We also have a retail series that we're doing. We actually have one this month, and we'll have a couple more coming up. So we're going to package those as a series after we're done.
So like for customers in that space?
In
like
retail. Yeah. Typically we just cover IT, security, platform, admin, DevOps, but we're playing with retail just to see how that goes. From the IT space, we're looking at glass tables and the universal
glass tables.
Yeah, the universal dashboard framework.
I love those also.
UDF comes up a lot here.
It does.
Yeah. And then some Kubernetes monitoring. I know we do a lot of stuff from a demand gen on monitoring, but I really want to do a deep dive into that. So that's one's coming up too.
That sounds like a good list. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Renita, so you're often presenting in these?
Yes.
Like, do you do all of them, or do you have peers doing?
It sounds like sometimes she's interviewing the PMs. I haven't seen one yet, so I got now I have some homework to do.
Right. In all honesty, I've done 4, and there have been a lot of them since April 2020. So I'm like one of the PMMs who contributes to these tech talks. So for each tech talk, it's a combination of one PMM and a PM or a specialist or someone like from the field or like very close to the product.
And
makes sense.
Just thinking again, sometimes Hal and I, often we like deliberately don't expose ourselves too much to the material because we want to be able to ask the same questions that our audience would ask when they don't know any of these things. So if we want to learn more,
our ignorance is real, is what
our ignorance is bliss. That sounds like a shirt. My ignorance is real. So we talked about some emails, but we also talked about like going to the community pages to register. Like, is it both or? Yeah, like once you register for one, do you get exposed to learning about the other ones?
So there are multiple things going on. And so I tell everyone just go to the community site. Okay. Because in the discussion area, we've got some widgets on the side. And I put in there, subscribe to Tech Talks. If you want to receive all the emails, click here. And that's, again, just another quick form. And it just says, hey, if you fill this out, you're going to get every single monthly email about the topics coming up. The other thing on there is just going back to Splunk Go, which is an infographic for our customers. But within that site, I continually push people back to the discussion because they can always find everything there. And I've labeled everything. But yeah, so in essence, I'm only promoting to admin and analysts. So if there was another title that wanted to see, they would have to, subscribe, or a colleague would forward it to them. We don't want to go just talking about marketing and not just our database. We're just trying to be really sensitive about how many people we email, because email is a lot right now and webinars are a lot right now. But to get started, I would say, yes, you could go to the community site, or if you received an email, we cross promote, subscribe, and go to the community site. And then that way, I'm trying to teach our customers how to fish, how to go to this site and just learn about that.
Nice. Yeah, any like interesting challenges or shenanigans or, behind the scenes? People always like hearing about that. Like, wow, this looks like a great finished product. It sounds like it was so easy to produce. But like any weird issues? Like, I mean, certainly trying to get people's time, I imagine right now has been weird.
Yeah, that's always an issue, getting people's time. And that's where Melissa has been really helpful in like getting all of us content producers like giving us a heads up a month in advance, sometimes 2 months in advance, like this is your checklist, go do it. Start poking your content specialist that, hey, you have to do this by this date, and so that everything like falls in place. And even with all of that, sometimes just basic technical stuff, right? The demo environment is not ready yet. And
Oh
then
my gosh.
you don't have the demo video up until the last minute. So normal stuff like that.
Yeah,
Like putting on a show.
Yeah, from my end, and this might be, a tweak that we make going forward is with On24, when you're recording slides, you call in through a phone. But when you upload the demo, it's recorded from your computer. So when you splice it all together,
Oh, wow.
you have a change in volume.
Oh, and the audio quality.
Yeah,
Funny,
because
we were
the
just
phone,
talking about that.
and that I put everything in the meeting request for when we record. Call in with your phone and and it always is like, what? Like, so we might try some techniques where we just have everybody record the whole thing together and just send me a file versus, because calling out the volume changes. Everyone's like, why does he?
And then me and Melissa just going into iMovie and trying freeze frames and graphic equalizers and stuff.
Yeah,
we can relate. So we have similar challenges on the podcast.
Yeah. And same thing from like leaving the demo back into the slides. Some
It's
people like
drop off.
Cut their demo right at the end, and I'm like 5 seconds of silence because it has to like jump back. So depending on your bandwidth, right? When you're watching the webinar, it could cut off some of the words. So there's a lot of things we've learned along the way, which might change how we record. But,
Gotcha. So, and anything else we want to talk about? So I think we did a great job covering the tech talks, which we want to send people to community.splunk.com and go to the discussions link, and you'll see Splunk Tech Talks category there. Anything else you want to bring up?
I think for me, it's just constant feedback. And like I mentioned, I put an article up there, just what do you want to hear about? It's gotten some eyeballs, but no comments yet. I think, again, because we
trolls attack.
Because this just started earlier this year, we were gaining traction globally. And I'm trying to cross promote between where our users are. But I think we've got to be more creative to say, just give us some more feedback. And maybe all the feedback will be the same, or we have the right process down for the content that we're already producing. But it's always good to get that feedback from customers, or like, what do they might want to see in a demo versus in an education class, or in a short what's new video.
So
that
to be specific,
can be on community.splunk.com at that post. Cool.
Yeah.
Versus emailing us, like they should go to the community, the relevant item in.
So how would we find that particular post, or is there something that we can drop a link in the show notes? But
get the link down here. I always do this, and we never superimpose it.
Oh, we'll do it now.
Everyone do it. All four of us.
Follow.
Press this
link right here.
Yeah. now because we have 4 squares, it's going to be 4 different links.
I would definitely echo that. I've been wanting to hear more customer voice and how they're receiving the tech talks and what else would they like to see, because as everyone knows, we have like accelerated releases on cloud right now. We definitely have a lot of content to put out there, but it would be nice to hear from our customers on what they want to see.
Very cool.
All right, there's the call to action. Let us know what you want.
Without revealing any personal information, I have a very important question. So, Melissa, does your sister still live around the corner from me?
She does.
Okay, good. I will keep my eyes out for someone
Which
that
corner
looks like
is
you.
That?
It's the corner.
Over Thanksgiving, she's like, I wonder if I run into him. Like, you actually came up over Thanksgiving.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I was out running, so there's a good chance she did. Yeah.
You've probably run into her husband running then, because he runs every morning. Yeah.
Yeah. So, there you go.
Nobody lives near me. Sorry.
Yeah.
One time when I joined the company, actually, and there were not I don't know, there probably might have been 5-10 people in the state of Georgia at the time.
Oh,
Probably
this
closer
was
to
a long
5.
time ago in American history.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
do you
When I
mean
joined the
5 or
company,
10
there might have
Splunk
been 5 or
employees?
10 employees in the state of Georgia.
Okay.
One of them was a sales rep, and he lived across the street, and not across the street, but like in the neighborhood, just
Oh.
across the big street, a mile away, if that. But that's nobody lately. So, although we do
You
have
scared
like,
them all away,
like
Hal.
75 or 80 people in the state now. So it's
Wow.
actually Rigger, the acquisition that just finalized recently. They're in Atlanta, so they're all based up here.
Signal
So-
FX is in Morrisville because I'm in North Carolina. So that's like
cool,
hop, skip, and a jump for me. Yeah.
neat.
Renita, are you in the Bay Area?
Yes, I am in San Jose. I do run into Splunk hoodies here and there. And they're
I'd imagine so.
more often than not engineers. Yes.
Yep, makes sense. Well, awesome. Renita, Melissa, thank you very much for spending time with us and let everybody know about your projects, which I hope everybody will check out at community.splunk.com.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Happy splunking. Bye.
Bye.